Hello everyone, Sidney St. James, here with you today for Season 5 and Episode 3. This season is about editing software that I use on my novels. Now earlier in my broadcast, you heard me mention that out of everything that you do, even the story that you write, probably one of the most important aspects of getting that first novel published is how well that you check the grammar of the novel. And it is so important that usually it's the first page or two that can actually grab the reader. If it's interesting, which it's supposed to be, kind of grab them with something. Take a look at my first 2 or 3 pages of my book called Adversity. When I first wrote it, I just kind of started describing the scene. I didn't know any better. What kind of room they were in and the table they were sitting at and all this. But there was nothing that was capturing, nothing that caught the reader's attention. Till my wife was editing it. And when she reads a book, that's the same thing she does. What grabs her from the beginning? Because a lot of people, if they don't get grabbed, they'll close the book or just pass on to the next one. So grammar checking is probably the same way. If they read the first 2 or 3 pages and the grammar is bad, they're going to close the book, no matter how good that you've written a capturing idea or a capturing story. So I'm going to take you on this little journey with me for the last 15 years in the different software editing programs that I used until I finally settled on one for my last 2 or 3 dozen novels. And that one I'll tell you about when I get to it. So, with the best editing software, a winning manuscript really does get easier to create. Or, I guess you could say, check out my 6 programs that I'm going to talk about today, and you'll save time. And you'll probably go with the one that I settled on, or at least I hope so. Creating a manuscript requires a whole lot of hours work and dedication. While nothing can replace the human mind or the human editor, there are grammar checkers and manuscript editing software packages that can benefit you and help you work on your manuscript, polish it, and make it ready for publication. Yet often, manuscript editing applications come with a price tag. You want to know that you are choosing the right one. Now, instead of doing all the searching and try to figure out which is the right one, then be sure to finish listening to this broadcast, and I'll give you the ins and outs of the different software packages that are available. So, rather than surf the internet, I'll give you 6 of the top editing software for you if you want to be an author. The choice will depend on the type of work you're writing. So feel welcome to dig through my list and listen and find one that you feel like fits your needs. Or bypass all the hunting, bypass all the looking and decision-making processes, and use the one that I finally settled on. Now, I've got to say this at the very beginning, because the one I settled on, what I'm talking to you about, is not an advertisement. They are not sponsoring me. I'm telling you like it is. I've written 50 novels, or a little better than 50 novels, and I swear by this program, it does the tiniest of editing to the largest of editing. It does everything from A to Z. It does plagiarism checking. It's really wonderful, and I speak highly of it, just as Sidney St. James, not as a sponsorship. And the name of this editing program as I go through them is Grammarly. Now, before we get down, I'm going to start off with one of the first ones I used. And I have to say, the first one I used was probably the one I really wanted to select. I really liked it until I continued to check and check. So the first one, and I still think it's a close runner-up to Grammarly in my opinion, is a program called ProWritingAid. It's free, or you can pay for some special options in it and pay as much as $70 a year. ProWritingAid is the first on my list because it's popular for both nonfiction and fiction writers. In addition, this online editor and plugin detect grammar errors and spelling mistakes while you're typing away or writing away, one or the other. It will also aid in analyzing your writing style to keep everything consistent while you work on your self-editing. With ProWritingAid, you get the help of a grammar checker, and the program provides assistance with sentence structure that lets you create a readable copy. And ProWritingAid will work for any style of writing if you're a self-editor. However, its inability to work without using the internet means it won't be the right choice for you out there who are fiction writers who write offline. Now, with everything that you do, ProWritingAid, there are pros and there are cons. I'll try to give you what I feel like are some of the pros. It offers affordable options, even with the version you pay for. It works well when you are self-publishing, which this whole broadcast for Season 5 is all about. And it provides advice about the length of your sentences and sentence structure. It contains a thesaurus, but so does Word, but I feel like it's got a much better, robust thesaurus, and a dictionary. It works with Google Docs. It works with Mac, MS Word, and even Chrome, yes. But I'll give you these pros, but what's wrong with ProWriting? What did I find wrong with it, in other words? Well, it will miss some mistakes with Grammar Checker. However, I would have to say that all editing software will do this, so it's nothing different than the rest. Therefore, they are not 100% perfect. It requires internet connection. It doesn't replace a real live person, and none of them actually will, for an error-free copy. Now, let's move along to my choice, because I have it in the number 2 position here as I discuss them today, but it could so easily flop back to the number 1 position, Grammarly. Now, Grammarly is free, or in my case, you can pay up to $139 per year to make it a robust checker, which means it will do plagiarism. It will give you better sentence structure ideas. It will help you flow a lot better. If you require a grammar checker to check typographical errors and word choice, then Grammarly is one of my best choices. It works as a grammar checker and a proofreader. Simply copy and then paste the text into an online place required. Or use Microsoft Word or the Chrome browser extensions to check your work while writing and see all your errors highlighted with suggestions for improving the readability of the sentence. Grammarly has a free version and, of course, the paid version that I was just telling you about. Though many writers find the free versions quite effective. They really are. Except the more you use it and can see the additional aspects of the editing software, you probably won't want to buy the extra. Not at first, at least. So it's very good, even the free versions. And finally, and even more helpful, is what I just said earlier. It has a plagiarism checker. With millions and millions upon books written, it will undoubtedly, every time I run it, catch a high percentage of plagiarism. I try to get my novels down to less than 1%, although many surveys indicate a higher rate is actually allowed. The functionality of Grammarly works for any type of writer, including the academic writers, those who are bloggers, and corporate writers. Now, let's Let's get into some of the pros and the cons. Just like ProWritingAid, Grammarly has its pros and its cons. Its pro, I would say, is that it offers an easy-to-use system that can locate many errors in writing style. Has a full-bodied grammar checking software that rivals professional editors around the world. It has an adequate free version, and I say adequate because if you're listening to the broadcast today, I mentioned in the very early stages that I can teach you how to self-publish that first book without spending a penny. And that's why this is one of the greatest editing softwares as far as the free version is concerned. Just go out to Grammarly, download it, plug it in with Microsoft Word, and off you go. It also has a synonym checker, and that is only with the paid version, however, but it's good. And Grammarly is offered as a browser and web-based editor. Now, cons, the things that are negative about Grammarly. It doesn't give any reasons for the grammar errors, which will confuse some writers. Like, why did you do that? Or, why did you do that? You can't replace a human editor. Of course, I said that about the ProWritingAid. We'll definitely miss some errors or make incorrect suggestions occasionally. But they all do that. But this is where later in my 5th season podcast, I will demonstrate how recording an audiobook and common practice will catch those errors that any of these grammar checkers that I'm talking about today won't catch. Grammarly is a top-notch spelling, grammar, and plagiarism checker. It will help you locate and fix errors quickly and work simply everywhere. It's trusted by millions upon millions of writers for a reason. It's trusted by me. The third step down, but was one of the first ones I ever used, is called AUTOCRIT. AUTOCRIT is free, or you can pay for the advanced version, which is $80 a month. This application lets authors compare their works to other famous writers. AUTOCRIT will analyze your manuscript to help you find areas where you can improve. This was the first I used when looking for editing software for my novels. It worked great. As an example, I used to use the word that over and over. I used to use very, very to try to explain something is large. It would catch that. It would tell me you've used that far more than you should ever use it. So, and then they would suggest how many to cut you back on. Cut that back whatever you can and get it to below 50 or whatever it was in the manuscript. And sure enough, it helped me write a more fluently flowing manuscript. It also lets you compare your writing to other famous writers. This appraisal will help you find common writing style mistakes and redundancies in your work. For example, if a self-published author tends to start a sentence with the identical word repeatedly, it will highlight that so you can go and fix it. It has a forever free plan, a professional plan for $30 a month. And then it has an elite plan for $80. Now, I've never used the elite plan, so I can't really talk too much about that. But still, it's a very good editing software. It's designed entirely for those who write fiction. It compares your written word and sentence structure to other well-known fiction authors. This includes both writers and short stories and fiction books. So let's talk the pros now. It will help you avoid redundancies and cliches, and it compares your writing styles to that of fiction writers. It improves your readability of fiction work, fits those on a tight budget. offers a 14-day money-back guarantee, which is pretty good because most of them are only 7-day on paid plans. Now, what are the negatives? Well, it has a weak passive voice checker that highlights all helping verbs, including past participle. May flag any active voice constructions as passive at times, so it just doesn't work that good. Another negative is it doesn't work with Microsoft Word. And it doesn't have a Firefox or a Chrome extension either. And probably one of the most biggest negatives was that it requires the writer to upload text into an online dashboard. I never did like that one. Then the next one is the Hemmingway application. Again, you can get this for free or $20 a month. In the Hemmingway app, like Microsoft Word, scores your writing based on readability and assists you in finding areas to improve. The Hemmingway app is a style checker. It gives you a score of your writing based on readability and helps you find places where you can improve. For example, the program will highlight areas of your text that are hard to read, or instances passive voice that hurt the overall readability. The Hemmingway app is entirely free, as I've said earlier, to use if you use the browser-based version. However, writers who desire to use a desktop application must purchase the software. Any writer who wishes to improve their writing skills and produce strong writing can benefit from the Hemmingway application, but still, I found Grammarly myself far more robust. Hemmingway assists authors in tightening up their manuscript. It suggests passive voice variations or reducing the number of adverbs, and that's something I do a lot of. I probably do too many adverbs in my writing, but I got to describe what's going on, right? Well, it also reflects color-coded highlights that helps writers spot those potential problems. Now, some negatives. It doesn't offer a spell checker or a grammar checker. Nope. It works as part of the proofreading process, but does not replace another grammar checker. And it requires the internet to use the free version. And next to last is Smart Edit for about $75 or $77 for one single license. With this application, writers can reduce their wordiness and create a cleaner and easier to read manuscript. Smart Edit assists writers in editing their stories and editing their novels. It runs about $20 on your content to highlight redundancies, misspelled words, overuse of adverbs and misused words. With Smart Edit, writers can decrease wordiness and create a much cleaner and easier to read fiction. This application costs $67 for a single license and $77 for a Smart Edit that will run on Microsoft Word. Smart Edit is for those who wish to write fiction. It's designed specifically for those writers writing short stories and romance novels. Now, what are some of the pros of Smart Edit? It is designed for the most part for novelists. So that's right up our alley, right? It analyzes the entire document in its entirety, not bits and pieces. And it doesn't require the writer to break up the small novel into small chunks. And lastly, it works very well with Microsoft Word. Now, what are some of the negatives then? It's not compatible with all word processors, only with Microsoft Word. So that's a negative. And it doesn't have an add-on for WordPress or Chrome. and it doesn't work with Apple, so Mac users can't use it at all. Doesn't have a free version either. Lots of negatives. And lastly, that I'm going to talk about today is a program called the Living Writer. It's $8 a month. You can use the outlines successful authors have employed right in Living Writer. Living Writer is an intuitive manuscript editing application for authors and novelists. Its drag and drop features allows reordering chapters and reordering stories without copying and pasting. You can utilize the outlines of successful authors who employed their stories and movies, both, in Living Writer. In addition to the light mode, this writing software offers a darken method, which is good for your eyes if you enjoy editing your manuscript at nighttime. The Auto Suggest feature recommends story elements based, for example, on the character, name, and or location. Now, Living Writer fits right in with National Novel Writing Month. Some people call it NaNoWrite More, a fiction book writing challenge held every November. It's fun, and you really ought to try it and participate in it with your first-time novel. Give it a try. Look for it on the internet, and it will tell you all about National Novel Writing Month. It's an excellent choice for novelists, storytellers, and fiction writers who have no problem writing online. Living Writer, as I said, was $8 a month. And some of the pros: it contains story writing templates. It's suitable for managing extensive manuscripts. It's less complicated than Scrivener. And a free trial is available. And some of the negatives are there's no inline commenting at all or offline mode. An $8 monthly subscription put off new storytellers. It's not free. You got to pay money. Well, we're trying to keep this as budget-minded as possible for you first-time buyers. I selected these apps for editing throughout my writing for presentation testing. Furthermore, I selected these manuscript editing software applications based on their ability to help me, as a writer, edit and draft. This is where I did most of my editing as well as my writing. Therefore, I have focused on ease of use. I have focused on price and useful features. After you sell your first 100,000 books, then you could probably step up in all the advanced features that these programs have to offer. But for right now, let's get that first book published. Let's use the free versions of the software. And as soon as it's published and you start to make some money on that book, then by all means, change your budget and take another step and get the advanced budget. Finally, my choices are based on those best suited to writers who work digitally. In the 6 cases I've described, I've reviewed the individual applications, example, Grammarly, extensively, and I have provided links to my favorite ones down in the bottom in the description. Also, I have written and published over 4 dozen novels using all these applications, but the last 40 books that I've written have been edited with the use of Grammarly. Now, today, my final words on manuscript editing software. As I've described, editing software won't replace a human editor. However, it is a very valuable tool while proofreading a document. It can catch mistakes and redundancies you've overlooked in your editing, and I don't care how many times you've edited a book, it will still be overlooked. Add one to your writing, however, for a solid and robust manuscript. Now, what's the best editing software for writers? I'll ask that question again. Of course, my recommendation is Grammarly and or ProWritingAid, which is actually a very toss-up between the two. They're among the top editing software options for writers. Writing and publishing your first novel is very important, and it will reflect upon your writing skills more than any other from the very start, and that's what you want to do. Whatever genre or story you write will be good, but only if it is error-free and your grammar is correct. Now let me take you to how to use Grammarly with Microsoft Word for polishing your first story in my next episode. Be sure to hit the like button down there somewhere and be sure to hit the subscribe button too. It brings me now to the end of Season 5, Episode... What is this episode? Episode 3. I'm just getting confused as I get to the end of my document here because somebody was waving through the window of the recording room over there. And I was right at the end, so I kind of got a little tongue-tied. But I appreciate you dropping in. I appreciate you listening to this podcast today. And if you have any questions, please sure to write them in the comments below. And I'll get back with you as soon as I possibly can. And I assure you, I read all the comments on all my YouTube podcasts. So in the meanwhile, we'll see you around the corner at the next episode. And again, thanks for listening. So we'll see you later, alligator. Well, that does it for me, Sidney St. James. I want to thank everybody for listening, and I hope you learned something today. And right around the corner, we'll be doing our next episode, and it will tell you even more things that you can do to be a successful first-time author and first-time publisher. So I'm here to help you get published that first novel. And if you have any questions, be sure to write them in the comments below. And any of the programs that I talked about today, you'll find a link to those programs as well, right down in the descriptions below. Also, be sure to check the like button. How do you do this? And hit subscribe. The more people that subscribe, the better. I love y'all. So, in the meanwhile, thanks for tuning in to the Sidney St. James Show, and we'll see you on the flip-flop. See you later, alligator.